In order to learn more about youth civic engagement, I reached out to all the governors and lieutenant governors in the United States. The vast majority of them did not respond, but one of them agreed to an interview. This is Lieutenant Governor Howie Morales of New Mexico. He is a really wonderful human being. He taught me so many fascinating things about civic engagement, and I'm really excited to share it with you guys. Unfortunately, because he lives in a rural area, we had to conduct this interview over a phone call, so this will be the last you see of my incredible face. But this is a really excellent interview. I'm excited for you to see it. I'll see you there. Hello, Lieutenant Governor Morales.
Thank you so much for calling. I'm sorry about it was on my end, the technology stuff on my end.
Oh, yeah, no
And then
worries.
like the challenges of living in rural parts of the state.
Definitely, yeah.
Yeah, but thank you. I didn't want to miss the opportunity to speak to you. Your service to me, it's always important because that's what inspired me is when I had access to communicate and have discussions with, with people who were leaders in this area when I was growing up. So thank you for thinking of me and allowing me to share some of my thoughts.
Absolutely. My first question for you is just to tell us a little bit about yourself and your role as Lieutenant Governor.
Yeah, so I mean, I come from a small community of about 10,000 people. I was a large family. I've come from a large family. My dad had 14 brothers and 5 sisters.
Oh, wow.
So it was, I had tons of cousins and relatives. So I always joke that it was easy for me to get elected as state senator because the voters were my cousins. So,
Yeah.
so yeah, that was part of, that. But of that large family, I was the first one that had the opportunity to go on to college and to get my teaching degree. And to me, education has always been the connectivity to anything that we can do in this world. And so that's what I've been doing. And as a senator, I was there 11 years, and as a lieutenant governor, finishing off my last 8 years. So last of my 8 years. So yeah, it's been a really good run, and I've been very proud of it. But most importantly, is the oldest of 3 other siblings. And I have 2 children, one that's 17 and one that's 14. So that to me was always the center of what I do is my family.
And I'm sure you get some great perspective from your children about what
Well,
like the
I
youth are
think that to
facing.
see things from the ground level rather than just being at all the fancy dinners and all the big events. I do it from that perspective, and I think that that's always kept my feet to the ground.
Huh, very cool. What issues do you think young people should be paying the most attention to right now?
Well, I think that the one thing that I get inspired, but at the same time, I want to make sure that people know is that the view of politics isn't what it is seen that's happening across the country. It's really seen that it's about working together, and the nature of politics right now is really divisive. And I think that there's a lot to be said for tone that is set. The tone of divisiveness to me that could destroy our country because when decisions are being made solely on the basis of political rhetoric,
Right.
you're not going to get where we need to. So that to me is something that I think is a real concern to me is that people understand that politics is about the art of compromise, and politics is about finding ways to have solutions. You may not be happy with everything that you do or get,
Yeah.
but it's about meeting where it can help the most amount of people. So that's the biggest thing that I stress is that politics that you see on TV is not the politics that is going to move our country forward.
Yeah. How do you think students could get involved in that more nonpartisan aspect of politics?
I think what you're doing, and I'm assuming that the program you're a part of, I'm assuming that it's nonpartisan.
Yeah.
Am I correct that it's more on the government aspect and policy side, not necessarily taking a Democrat or Republican or independent point of view? But is am I correct in sharing that?
That's right. Yes.
Yeah, and I think that that's helpful. Now, not to say that the party um, structure isn't helpful because it does, and I do advocate for areas that are important to me. I advocate to things that I stand strong in, but I'm also different because I know that you can bend a little and still get the results that you want.
Right.
I've been able to do that during all my times in the legislature.
Yeah. So, you talk about the ability to, use your position, collaborate with other politicians across the political spectrum to affect this change. And so, question for you is, how can student organizations who hold debates, conventions, and community activism events better connect with elected officials who are creating that change?
Well, I do think, and New Mexico is different because New Mexico is a citizen legislature.
Right.
So that means that all of them are volunteers. So they're pretty close to their constituents. And I do believe that they're open and they want to have opportunities to talk and dialogue with young people. But they've got to be asked. If you didn't reach out and request this, then I wouldn't have known that that's something that you were advocating for or wanting. I wouldn't have known that. And I think that that's important that people have the courage to reach out. And that's also a litmus test. And the reason it's a litmus test is because if you have some that are not responding, or you have some who just, just doesn't want to connect or make the time, then that kind of will show you really what kind of politician they are.
Right.
And I think that having the courage, reaching out, and have an open mind and discussing and sharing with your policymakers.
Very interesting. Yes. One more question for you.
Yes.
What advice would you give to a high school student who wants to turn civic engagement into lasting change?
Yeah. So the advice I would give is you and other students, including my daughter, you're not the leaders of the future. You're the leaders now. And I've been inspired by seeing that more now than ever. We have our students who are really setting the course and the narrative of what direction they want to go in. They're not talking the same talks that you have 40, 50-year-old veterans in politics. They're talking about solutions, and they're activated and they're out there doing all they can. That's important, to recognize that you're not the leaders of the future. You're the leaders now, and use that power. And that's why it's always important for me whenever I get asked to go speak to any student group. Yesterday, I had an opportunity. I kind of dropped by and did a cameo because the Youth in Government organization was doing like their mock sessions. So you had a lieutenant governor who was there sitting on my seat, and he's there presiding over, just like I would, doing a great job. But he was so shocked when I walked in.
Wow.
And I was right there and just tapped them on the back, and they were excited. But that's important that they see themselves in their elected leaders. So keep doing that. And then I'll even go a step further is please always keep my contact and let me know if I can ever go share inspirational words, if I can ever share my experiences.
Yeah.
I was poor growing up. I was on food stamps.
Sure.
We didn't have much, but that doesn't determine where you can end up. But when you get to where you want to be, you can never forget the people that are living the life just like you did. You can never forget the struggles that are there. Never forget where you come from.